Hey everybody, real quick, if you need a recap of Fallout Season 1, I've got you covered. Just hit the tab in the upper right-hand corner. I do want to clarify something, though. At the end of that recap, I say this looks like Seattle. It's obviously New Vegas, which is pretty embarrassing because I played that video game. But anyway, on to the Season 2 recap. Now, we're going to start off with a flashback before the bombs dropped. After Cooper finds out what his wife really does for a living, he is completely spooked. He grabs his daughter. He tells her, pack 3 dresses and your favorite toy and get in the car. We're leaving. But before he actually does leave town, he meets with Lee Moldover. He tells Lee exactly what he overheard, the fact that they were planning to drop the bomb and essentially wipe out the entire world. And she's not surprised about it. She's just relieved that he knows about it. Because he is a Hollywood star, which means he has access like nobody else does. She asks him, hey, do you know who Robert House is? And Cooper says, yeah, I know who Robert House is. He owns half of Las Vegas. Lee tells him that Robert House, this billionaire, is also building a privately run missile system in Las Vegas, where he lives. She looks him dead in the eye and says, when the bombs drop, it'll be Robert House who pushes the button. But there's a way to stop it. She wants Cooper to stop it. Because she knows that Cooper's wife is headed to Vegas the next week to sell cold fusion to Robert House. And at that point, he would have everything he needed to drop the bombs. So what she wants Cooper to do is get in good with his wife for the next week, head out to Vegas with her, and kill Robert House. Now, Robert House is a dangerous man. He owns Robco, but he's also a mad scientist in a way. A good example of this is he ends up luring a bunch of goons in the back of a bar, riling them up a little bit, offering them money to insert a chip into their neck. And when one of them just says, we'll just take your money, I mean, we don't really need this chip, he's able to insert it anyway, and then you see the power of this computer chip. Because it turns this guy into a sort of puppet for Robert House. I mean, he looks at him and he says, hey, do me a favor, take care of your friends. And all of a sudden, the guy grabs a baseball bat and starts swinging it like he's Bryce Harper. The only issue is the computer chip is a little glitchy. Robert House can't control this guy fully, and eventually it leads to Robert House using the device to control him. He cranks the power all the way up and the guy's head explodes. But at least now Robert House knows that he's on to something. He actually mentions that the world might end, but progress will march on. This is his idea of progress. And as for Coop, while he wanted to leave town, now he can't. He has to head back home, and he gets really weirded out when over the radio he overhears one of the broadcasters say that Robert House mentioned it's not a question of if the world will end, it's just a question of who presses the button. But while Coop is freaked out about this, when his wife comes home, he just has to put a smile on his face and act like it's business as usual. Now, the present-day Coop is the Ghoul. And he and Lucy continue to roam the desert, making their way closer to New Vegas, and they have a little bit of a different line of thinking when it comes to how to handle confrontations. The Ghoul, he just has no problem with killing people and using violence. Lucy would like to talk it out and give the people a chance. So far, it seems like the Ghoul's way has won out more times than not, but it's not going to stop Lucy from continuing to try. While she realizes that her life growing up was a sham, she does want to lead by example because, after all, she grew up with the golden rule. In the meantime, though, the number one rule is find her dad, and they continue to march through. When they get to the outskirts of New Vegas, and Lucy mentions, man, it looks just like the pictures. And the Ghoul says, well, yeah, most of the bombs got shot down. And when she questions why in the world would Vegas be protected, why couldn't they do this for the entire United States, he says, it's because of Robert House. The optimistic Lucy says, well, maybe that's where your family went, to be safe. But the Ghoul tells her, nobody near Robert House is safe. They continue to walk, and they're getting hints that they're heading in the right direction. They do stop off at a soup stand. The woman there who is selling flea soup informs them that Hank went in a particular direction, and they continue going that way. Not too long after that, they come across an old drive-in movie theater, but it's actually a vault. Now, Lucy hasn't seen too many of these, but the Ghoul certainly has. And when Lucy gets excited, the Ghoul informs her that every time he steps foot in one of these, he has to come to the realization that there's a chance he finds out what happened to his wife and daughter. So it kind of smacks the smirk right off of Lucy's face. But they do have tracks from her dad's suit that lead into the vault and also lead out of it. And what the ghoul's wondering is, why exactly would he stop off here? So the two head in. And what they find is a little weird. Now, at first it appears like this vault is full of commies because they're all wearing USSR stuff, the star. But it doesn't take too long for Lucy to realize that these aren't communists. The vault made them communists. They were basically brainwashing them. Lucy, though, gets back on track, trying to find out why her dad stopped off. She goes over to a terminal. She tries to unlock it, but it doesn't work, and she realizes that her dad had taken the hard drive out of it. So they're probably not going to get their answer. But they're also not alone. Around the corner, they continue to snoop, and there's one person left over. The guy is basically a zombie. And the ghoul looks at Lucy and says, "It looks like your dad left a guinea pig." And he certainly did. The guy, whoever this poor soul is, has a message for Lucy from her dad, and that is, go home. And not too long after delivering that message, his head explodes, and it appears like he had one of those chips. The same chip that Robert House was testing out in the back alley. But while her dad left her that message, she's not going home. She tells the ghoul, "I'm going to continue to look for him, and I'm going to find him." But the question is, where is Hank? Well, at this point, Hank has made his way all the way to the Vault-Tec headquarters. He's able to get inside. He takes his suit off, and by the way, he is the only one there, and it appears like he's the only one who's been there in quite some time. He puts on a nice suit. He looks like a boss. And after getting situated, one of the first places he goes is to R&D, where it's pretty clear they were testing out those chips. Because you've got a bunch of bodies with no heads, chips attached, and they also have prototypes for the chips to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And after looking it over and grabbing the set of chips, he heads over to the radio to send a message to who you would think would be Robert House. He starts off by telling him that he's made his way into Vault-Tec and no one's there. No one knows he's there. But he's made it to Vegas and he wants to pick up where everybody left off. He's going to complete the work that Robert House started, and then he tells him, "When I'm finished, you're going to be begging me to help you." And then finally, back at Hank's old vault. Vault 33, they're still trying to figure out their water chip situation. They're still trying to fix it. In Vault 32, however, Stephanie has certainly gotten acclimated to being the overseer. Whereas Chet, he's terrified because he has realized that he doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have a son. He doesn't have a family. Oh, and by the way, he also doesn't have a job, which he asks Stephanie for, but she tells him, "No, you're great at taking care of the baby." And it's something that Stephanie seems to not have any interest in whatsoever. And when Chet reminds her that the baby is not his, and he would rather the baby not be called Chet Jr., she gets pretty stern with him. I mean, she's holding a knife. It's pretty clear that Chet is worried for his safety, so he just quickly agrees, okay, Chet Jr. is fine. Before Chet leaves, she asks him if he's good with computers, and he says, "No, that was usually Norm's thing. Why don't you go message one of the vaults and ask him if he can help?" And everybody thinks that Norm has been sent to Vault 31 for a leadership exchange program. Nobody knows that he's actually trapped there with a brain on a Roomba. And that brain is pressuring Norm to get into one of those hyperbaric chambers and just go to sleep for a while. But Norm isn't willing to do that. And the issue is Norm is quickly running out of supplies. He's got barely enough water to survive. He's got no food. And the brain knows this. So after a while, the brain just says, "You know what? Why don't I inject you with a serum that will kill you quickly, your body will disintegrate into dust, and then it'll end up in the farm." But Norm's got another idea. Because Norm is a lot bigger than this thing. And he decides, no, if I'm trapped here, I'm not going to be alone. Holding the Roomba back with his foot, he decides to open up all of the chambers. Vault 31 is about to have a lot more people in it. People that are awake.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.